Hey, and do I just go to huddle from here?
Yeah, you're back.
Boom.
Back like we never
Hey,
left.
greetings, everybody. Thanks for coming back. We got a background. We're amping up our technology here. That's a picture of our seniors whose season was cut short, but a good group of guys. And we're glad you can join us. Wanted to kind of move into the topic of sliding and recovery and sliding preparation and sliding stance. And we picked a couple more clips from the PLL season. So I'm going to, yeah. All right. So here we are. We got a clip from the Atlas against Chrome game. Again, I'm pulling some of these clips off of the Twitter feed that the PLL is using, and not surprisingly, they pick a lot of offensive clips and don't talk about defense. So we're turning it around on them. So here we go. Right, starts with a little bit of a one-handed poke, which I'm not a huge fan of, but the defender ends up doing a pretty good job. Right, there's the one-handed poke, which is not great, but he ends up getting, this is I think Jordan Wolf with the ball. Your first problem is they have two people sliding. So I think one of the things, and I said this before in one of the other webinars, is that there's multiple bad things that can happen. Having nobody sliding is one problem. Having two people who think they're the slide man is a bad problem. So right here, right now, you can see real issues are developing because they have a guy on the ball who's actually doing a really good job, and then they have two other guys who they both think are the slide guys. So they have three people committed to the ball. They have the on guy ball who's on the ball. They have a cross cage slide coming, and then they have a crease slide coming. So I think one of the things when you're watching film with your team, and I think hopefully one of the benefits of the series that we're doing is trying to teach your guys how to watch film on their own. And I'm a big believer in kind of empowering your players to not only coach themselves, but coaching teammates, is because you only have so much time with them. You only have so much time on the field. You only have so much time pre-practice and post-practice, recovering from games, getting ready for the next game. So the more that you can give your players the tools that help them, then the better off that you're going to be. And so you don't have to be perfect in these things, but you can, want to have a clarity about who your slide guy is. So this blue team, clearly there's some confusion. There's a guy who thinks he's the cross cage slide, this guy, and then there's a guy who's coming from the crease. And you can see, even though the offensive on the white doesn't have great spacing, you're going to see the price of having three people committed to the ball right here. But I love the ball pressure and the coverage by the guy who's on ball. I don't love the decision making here. And I talked about this the other day, is I'm a big believer in staying sideways until you're finishing a slide. So right now, he's completely squared up with no ball pressure. He's completely squared up with no ball pressure. And he's on the ball with a lot of ball pressure. So I'm not even saying this is a situation where you even need to slide, but the blue team is doing it nonetheless. And one of the other things I like to talk to my team about is, if you're any of these other guys, him, and him, that you don't have that much influence on whether they slide and how they slide. But if you're any of these guys, one of the things that you should recognize, and I ask all my defensemen to recognize this, is we slid, how much ball pressure is there, and how many people do we have committed to the ball? So if you're any one of these circled guys, you can't care about your man anymore because you have three people committed to the ball. And that's a real problem. So you have to stop thinking about what guy I'm guarding and start thinking about, how can I kill space? How can I slow play things? How can I affect skip lanes? So that's what should be going through your head for any of those circle defenders. And so now you probably could have survived this slide with a little bit of different ball pressure. So they come, they get 3 people, and that this becomes a massive lead wrap here. And if you've been paying attention in any of my webinars, I hate this check, like passionately, because you get violent ball pressure for a second, and then as you wind up for your second check, the ball's gone already. And now you have 2.5 people committed to the ball. This guy who was originally on ball, and now your slide guy. And so you could probably even survive having 2.5 people committed to the ball if you had ball pressure here. You could probably even survive this next play if your recovery was done cleanly. You know, where's he going? Where is he going? Is he pulling down? What's this guy going to do? This guy becomes really critical, this defender right here. I mean, all these guys are critical, but how you recover with these people and how you communicate now, because remember, all 3 of these people were committed to the ball 5 seconds ago. Now you have one person committed to the ball, and he's slashing the crap out of this guy. And as he wound up to make his second slash, this ball's gone. It's gone to him, and it's going to be here in a second. Right? So how you recover with all these people will determine whether you're going to survive this play or not. If these 2 guys up here are fixated with their men by the 2-point line, you're going to give up a goal. Now, if they can collapse and rotate, you potentially could force some perimeter passes. Let's see how it plays out for them. All right? It's a fairly clean transfer, and you know what this guy ends up really doing a good job. This defender knows he's got a 2-man split here. So he has to slow play this. You know, if you're not going to get that top-down support, which it doesn't look like they're going to get, remember those guys who are by the 2-man? They're not in the screen yet, so you're in big trouble. So you better either, you know, bump here, and hopefully, you know, forces this guy to carry, and maybe they skip through. But a skip is much better than giving up a dodge and dump. But you know, that becomes really critical, right? And so this guy thinks he's chasing back, cross cage. Remember, he just came a long way. He's trying to chase back there. This guy's trying to slow play this situation. And those 2 guys that we were talking about up here ended up not helping very much. And as a result, they're going to give up a step down here. You know, so, you know, even though the fact that they had 2.5 and 3 people committed here, they still could have survived. Here's the 3 people committed to the ball. They still could have survived this with collapse, and maybe he bumps over and he recovers back, or he recovers back here and he moves up here. You can survive all that, and the only way you survive that is with the clarity of your rules and this ball pressure right here. You can barely see it because I've driven a lot of stuff. We talked about this guy slashing this guy here. If he would have just maintained ball pressure, what that could mean is if this guy makes this guy dodge and hold the ball for a second or 2, here's the ball in the air right here. This is the ball. If he just doesn't slash this guy and maybe makes him carry for a step or 2, you'll see why that step and that extra second becomes so important, even if you play this imperfectly, because the ball got there so quickly and they almost got there. You're going to want that second, that extra second that was right over here, that ended up being that pass to right here. You're going to want, I always talk about to my defensive mode, you're going to want that step back, because that's the difference between ball pressure or finishing an approach or narrowing a skip lane. All those things really matter. So we're going to go on to the next clip. Are there any questions or anything, Will?
No questions. I'm going to make it a little easier for you so that the screen is bigger. I'm going to go here.
Okay.
And that way we're almost full screen.
All right, cool. All right, now we got a second clip here from a different game from the Archers and the Atlas. All right, it's got a little two-man. You know, we talked about two-man the other day. I'll make a quick comment. You never want, again, I know that people play this differently. You know, we talked about outworking, and there's definitely teams that teach two-man where they want this guy kind of above the goal, and so he can meet wherever the ball comes. I guess that is a way of doing it. I'm not a huge fan of it, but this is the way that they're playing, because I think the price of that is when you get an actual pick here, look how long this guy has to run at this guy. And guy's waiting at GLE. I mean, this is going to be a pretty violent point of contact, and he's likely going to get to a pretty good spot. He'll have some contact right here or wherever he meets him, but there's probably not much you can do to keep him from getting to the island. So that's a little side point about the two-man that we talked about the other day. So he gets here, right? He gets up to the island, you know, good stance, pretty good stance, standing straight up, turning his back to the play. This guy, the price of this, you'll see here in a second. You know, so the guy gets up to the island. They're clearly going to try to slide adjacently, trying to kill some space. You know, this guy's trying to hedge down here to be a deterrent. And by him doing that, by him having to do that, and then this guy's going to try to hedge up and kill some space adjacently as well. And because he's going to hedge down, he has to start thinking about, well, if he goes, I got to rotate over here to number 90. Right? So he's not sideways though, because I think he's predetermined he might have to rotate here. Him thinking that, this guy right here, you're going to see the price of that here in a second. So he's up there. This guy's doing a really good job. He's doing a really good job, still standing up straight, one hand on the stick. When you're coaching your guys, one of the things that you say all the time is not much you can do with one hand on the stick. And there's not much you can do when you're flat-footed. And so if you have one hand on the stick and you're flat-footed, that's a deadly combo. But both of these guys are doing a really good job. Him, and this guy's trying to sneak a peek at the dodge while seeing his man at the same time. So you have four guys doing the right thing. You got some good ball pressure here, adjacent help, sideways stance, staring at the ball, maybe thinking he has to rotate, and standing up straight with one hand on the stick. 4 to 6 is not bad. So he gets up here, and you can start seeing that this guy feels like, you know what, I have to go, or I'm going to try to. This is kind of what we call a hedge and a scrape, where he's trying to buy some time and trying to scrape his stick into the lane. You know, offensively, you want to kind of teach your guys to kind of follow up into that threatening spot. You know, but you know, if he comes here, he can do some stuff, or he can drag it across to the other pipe. Good stance, somewhat of a good stance. One hand on the stick, completely squared up to this dodge. And you're going to see the price of this here in a second. So guy sees the double team, makes the right play, and really good spacing from the blue team. You can see this guy now has three options. He can obviously push the corner. He's got two guys to feed the ball to. You know, the thing you want to think of, and this is again personal, I like to look away in this situation. And when you hear look away, a lot of times people think about that as a function of, hey, I trust my on-ball defender, we don't have to slide to him. And I see it more as, how do I see what's going on above GLE? A little bit of the trust on ball, but a lot more of what is going on, who's cutting, who can I pick up, who's the most dangerous guy. And so you got a combination of two really costly things here. I'll show you to you in a second. he's going to end up, he has one hand on the stick and he's going to end up facing this way. As this guy ends up cutting, and this guy right here, circled guy, his man's going to cut into this open slot here. So it leaves them, because he gets backdoor cut, it leaves one guarding two. And I'm not saying they could have survived this if this guy was facing this direction, but he might be able to read eyes and pick up one of these two guys as they cut. He can't do anything about this guy getting backdoor cut, but he might be able to read and make an intelligent guess on which guy is the more dangerous guy. But now you're going to see the price of this here in a second. So he doubles, right? He ends up, because he's staring at the ball, choosing the wrong guy. And he goes to him, and this guy cuts backdoor and gives up a goal. And what, from an off-ball perspective, we talked about this gentleman over here. He becomes really important. What he should be thinking is, as this ball, he needs to be a little more sideways. So he ends up looking away, which is, has some benefit, but he's late finding this cut. The only two guys who can help on this cut are him and him. And he ends up choosing this guy, which now puts extra pressure on him. So when you're teaching your guys, as the ball gets thrown on the perimeter, having a sense of whether you slid or not, how much trust you give to your defender, where's the more threatening guy? A guy who's outside the hash at 10, or a guy who's cutting straight down Hempstead Turnpike? So the only way you develop that awareness is every time the ball moves, you turn and orient yourself to your man and your role differently. If you just stay focused on your man, you'll never be in a role that can help your defense. And so this ends up being, a pretty easy feed for the blue team. This, the red team is the team that won the championship. I think they played really good individual defense and really good help defense. We saw a clip like this the other day, right? All right, this guy's has to make this decision. Am I going to stick around and help? Do I have to slide? Is this guy going to become your slide guy? Are you going to look to help adjacently? There's so much going on to unpack, but I think the red team does a really good job of playing defense in this league. So you get here, he sticks around for a second or two. You can see how he hedged, and you can see them getting ready to make some of the decisions that they have to make. Is he going to go? Is he going to chase back? If he goes, he's got to be prepared to go, while he has this other responsibility for a guy over here. So there's a lot to unpack. And I think the red team does a really good job, right? So they get here, right? This guy's clearly taking away that cut here. And I think one of the things that's really different than some of the other clips right here, this guy, in a lot of the other clips we've watched, this guy's been below GLE, right? And we talked about this yesterday, like when the ball is there, when the ball is here, why would you care about a guy who's below GLE? So the fact that he's sneaking a peek, you can see him looking right here. I can spy with my little eye that he's looking that way. He's trying to get a sense of where his guy is, and then he's going to turn his attention here because he's probably in his head saying, that guy's making himself irrelevant. Let me pay attention to what's going on over here. This guy's hedging a little bit, and because he's hedging, he has to hedge a little bit. And because he's hedging and he's hedging, he better have some awareness of what's going on, because look at all this space here. That's a crap load of space for that 45 to fade into. So this is a good example in contrast to some of the other clips from this league that we showed. So this guy comes out of the roll, right? Fighting, call this fighting to get sideways. He's killing some space here. And because they're playing an adjacent hedge defense where he's thinking about trying to kill some space and chase back. So he's in this kind of 180-degree movement and footwork here. Because he's doing that, he's got to have awareness for him, but also try to buy some time on this cut, right? Those guys are tough spots. And 45 is Cloutier. He's no dummy. He sees all this space in here, and he's like, I want some of that. If I can get some of that, this guy can find me. So he's hunting that space. 36 here is doing a really good job of saying, you're irrelevant behind here. How can I help above the goal? And you're going to see how that plays out here. So he turns, the fights get sideways. Cloutier tries to take that space, and then he comes in, lead poke right into his hands. And if you notice, the offensive guy, that 36, is that a Bernhardt? Is 36 a Bernhardt? The Bernhardts, maybe. Yeah, is that possibly. You can kind of see the shadow of the guy he's responsible for. Hell, that might even be the referee for all I know. But he is saying a guy below GLE is less dangerous than a guy who's cutting to the front porch. And this approach is money. It's a really good play. You still don't see his guy. So you see, I love how he takes that look over his shoulder. Looks, comes in, sees that cut, looks again. 2 peaks. If I had slow-mo, I would slow-mo it. Look, that's another look, poke right into his hands, helps his teammate, loose ball. That's a really good play within the defense that the red team's playing, which is a little bit of a hedge and show. But even as you're hedging and showing, you got to be prepared to move on the perimeter. And I think that's one of the Bernhardts. I don't know their names. Jared?
Jared. Yeah.
Okay.
Maybe another one.
Jake or Jared, one of those two. But he steps into that space, and that's a really good play. It's a really good, simple play. And, ironically, in the clip on the internet that the PLL put out, all the focus was on Bryce Young, who ends up getting this ground ball. Listen, he does a really good job. He's fighting to get sideways. He gets a little bit of a nugget here. I'm not sure if he gets a nugget, and then he gets the ground ball. Yeah, focusing on that, that's a hell of a job. If I'm coaching, the really good job is done by 36.
Apparently that is Tim Muller, number 36. Coach Murphy chiming in on the chat.
All right, sorry. And a fellow Chaminade Flyer, so we'll give him, he gets extra bonus points because we went to the same high school. So that's a really nice play by him. But that's also a little play when you're coaching your team. It doesn't always end up in a really demonstrative, sexy play like that ends up being a cause turnover and a possession for your team. But when you're coaching your guys and you're using huddle or score break or just play or whatever, some of the technology that you have, don't just focus on the sexy play, focus on the little plays that help contribute to really good plays happening. So we're going to go to,
you want to answer a few questions?
Yeah, we got a couple of questions.
All right. First question from Brian McClure. Worked with Woodinville out in Seattle. Shout out the Falcons. He wants to know if at the start of this clip, do you want the backside defender? Should he be in more to start?
Is this the guy who's the furthest diagonal guy? So his question is, where should he be?
Yeah.
I'd like to see him as this dodge happens, swinging around. So the question is about this gentleman right here. Like, how would I like him oriented? Where would I like him to be? As this dodge starts coming up the hash, I'd like to see him swing around faster. He ends up swinging around. He does a good job. If you end up becoming a crease sliding team, if this guy ends up going, he can come down and help. He can pull down and help. He can pull in and help on the skip lane. So this guy does a really good job. I like the spacing, when the ball gets thrown back. So now he finds his guy. I'd like to see him swing around again when this ball moves. I'd like to see him swing around and find the ball first, not look away. So inside, this guy maybe looking away. This guy looking in, because I think if he looked in quicker, he'd be able to find this cut sooner. So, good question.
One more question before we get to the drill. On approaches slides, do you prefer a lead poke?
I'm like in the Henry Ford school of checking. You can check any way you want as long as it's a poke. And the ironic part is I'm not sure if I threw a poke check in my life. So yeah, do as I say, not as I did. And sometimes you don't even like have to throw a check, because a lot of times when you're sliding, and I'll go back to this one, even though this is not a great example. This guy coming up the hash here, right? Is if you're trying to get ball pressure, the quickest way between 2 points is a straight line. So a lead poke can get you to hands, it can get you to gloves, it can get you to the butt end. All things are really positive. But sometimes when you slide, you don't even have to check that the momentum of the dodge, and you see this a lot on alley dodges, where a guy is running down the alley and you're either sliding adjacently up the hash or from the crease, is that the momentum of the dodger is coming at you at an accelerating rate. And so sometimes just being in a really good athletic stance where the head of the stick is the first thing that's going to touch your opponent. And when you're watching film of your defense and trying to work on good slide, good technique, bad technique, I say to my Harvard guys a lot is, if the first thing that touches your opponent is your glove or your elbow or your forearm, you've already given up all the advantage that the shaft of your stick has in being disruptive to the quality of a shot or the quality of a feed. Why would you sacrifice that? Why would you not want to utilize that? So you don't want to be a zombie. That's when your hands get way over your feet. And you don't want to be an alligator where you're in tight here, but you want to try to have your hands and feet working together so you can be disruptive. But you don't want to be lunging, because the only thing worse than not sliding is you sliding and you getting run by two. Then you have two people committed to the ball, and that's not good. So hopefully that answered your question. But the short answer is yes, lead poke. Anything else?
That's it.
All right, we're going to go to, we got 2 drills from our practices where we show some sliding and recovery. And then we got a drill here. It's not a great, I'm going to go back here because it's not a great, I have all these different groups going on at once. So here is, I'm going to focus on this group right here. So I'm going to circle them so you know where we're paying attention. So this group here, there's 4 guys in this group. There's a dodger. Here's the dodger as 1. And here's the slide guy. Here's the on-ball guy. And here's a backside communicator. And all we're practicing is something really simple, really granular element. And all these different groups are going on here. Here's a group, here's a group, here's a group, here's a group. There's 4 groups, trying to get as many reps and as many experiences for our guys. So all we're doing is practicing this guy sliding, right? This guy dropping, and this guy communicating, him telling him what to do. So this guy that I'm spinning right now is going to communicate to the original on-ball guy. And we've already practiced some of our language of where we're telling a guy or something that's happening. So we're using very specific terminology and language that's unique to our team. And, we're telling him where to go. And listen, we could tell him, and he's going to an imaginary guy. So you need a little creativity. But this guy right here, the backside guy, he can tell him, to go right here, or here, or hey, you can go right there. So we're practicing all these different terms that we use about where we're trying to tell guys. So that gives you a little, so focus on this little group right here. So you can see the slide, you can see the recovery, and then you can see what we're telling him to do. And what's really important when we're doing this is not just the language, right? So you can see the slide. Here's the slide happening right here. You can see that I want this guy practicing being in the stance because he's directing his teammate where to go. And so you want this efficiency, and you can practice this as a double team. You can practice this at a variety of things. But what I like about this example, and it wasn't even created this way, is that the athleticism and the gesturing by this guy. I don't believe in pointing one-handed because there's not much you can do with one hand on the stick, as we learned from the previous clip. And I want to practice being loud and practice a freshman, this is a freshman, telling a junior what the hell to do. Because in a game, it's not a caste system. No one cares whether you're a freshman or a senior. Just do what you're told. And so we need to practice being responsive. So what I also like about this is, right, he gestures with his stick, and then this guy gets his man and gets into a roll, right? That's really important because as we showed in the previous clips, when you have two people committed to the ball, the only way you survive that is ball pressure. And that gives you the time when you go back to this drill, here you got two people committed to the ball, you got to have ball pressure now. And the only way you survive this time where he's telling him what to do is the ball pressure that goes on right here. And now I get into a stance and a roll. So that's not truly a 5 on a die drill. It's not, I didn't label this correctly, but it's more of like practicing the components of a slide and recover in really small groups where you're practicing like a really granular component of how you play defense. And it allows, in a 3-minute, guys are going to get 4 to 5 reps in each roll, and they got a chance to get better. So now we take that to, an on-field situation. This is, I think, from our fall, and this is an actual 5 on the die drill where we're saying we are sliding to everything. We're going to slide to everything here. And so you can see this guy sliding, doesn't, squares up. We're completely committed. And you got some, backside action. You got a transfer guy at X. You got a guy who's trying to fill up some space adjacently. And then you have all this offensive action that's going on over here in this small group. So you're predetermining what's happening off defensively and then just playing. But you're totally committed to going, which should make it a little bit easier for the offense because they know the slide's coming and they have to make good, clean decisions with the ball. So get here, got ball pressure, right? You have, 2 on 3 over here. So you're practicing, how do you survive this? So here's your 3. 1, 2, 3. You have 2 people committed to the ball right here defensively. The only way you survive this is ball pressure, right? That's your situation. You got 2 defenders, right? You got one, this guy here, call him X, call him Y. So you got, and this happens over and over in games, over and over in high school games, over and over in college games. How do you survive? Ball pressure, don't give up skip passes, efficient slide and recovery. So you got here, this guy comes out of this roll, and this is one of the classic mistakes you don't want to make as a defenseman. This guy comes out of the roll, they recover, this guy's wheeling off. You can see this guy right here. He could go here, he could be sent all the way through, right? But this guy right here, this is the communicator from the drill that we showed you. He's the guy who's telling him where to go, just like we did in that drill. What's really important defensively is that you have to make this a 2-pass to get the ball to this guy. If they want to get the ball to this guy right here, and you don't want to give up a goal or a really good shot, is that this has got to be a 2-pass thing. Either, here to here, pass, pass, or pass, pass. The problem is that doesn't happen. And the reason that doesn't happen is this guy right here is more concerned about a guy who's at 19. This guy. He's more concerned about him than he's concerned about this guy who's at 10 just outside the hash. And so if you give up a skip, this is what a skip pass looks like. So his job, this guy's job right here, is to be here while you recover and figure out how you're going to bump through. And you can bump through in a variety of ways of how to do this. But when you give up a skip, it puts extra pressure on your defense. So the ball gets skipped through. And now this is a long approach. This is a really long approach. It's hard, you don't want to channel because then the guy's going to run right here, right? You don't want to stop because then he's going to rip in your face. So, what you'd like to see from your defense is, and we don't see it, is pushing down, is pushing in, and then if you're a crease sliding team, is this guy evaluating whether he has to go or not. So a little too much relaxation, and as a result, the guy ends up, getting to the front of the goal and getting a shot off. So that's the price of a skip pass. What's that?
Question.
Oh, we have a question.
Steve Moreland.
Steve Moreland.
Buddy.
If you ask a question on 3 straight webinars, you get a coffee mug. So next time, Steve, we got a mug coming your way.
Backside communicates where to recover, but anything else? Ball location, recovery roll, etc.
Which backside, I think the backside, as far as after the skip pass. So like right now, the ball got skipped. This is what we're talking about. The ball is now right here. And so just to show you who's who, here's the ball, right? Here's your on ball guy, obviously, is that this guy this was the original slide guy. Let me go back to make sure I have the people correct. So this is your original slide guy who's now going to become, the original on ball guy who in our defense will become the slide guy. So you can see him, he peeled off. So this is the slide guy originally. Here's the original on ball guy. And now, you kind of need a combination of this guy pulling down to help, this guy, this is where the ball just got thrown from here. So this guy made himself a little irrelevant. We'd love to see this guy pushing this guy into his role because this is a lot of space. This is a long approach. Look how much space this guy has to attack. It's decent size. You don't see any white jerseys there. And so that's not a bad situation. So the slide guy, who frankly was the original on ball guy on the original Dodge, has to go from on ball, recover, establish himself in the role. What can help him is if these guys, if 1 and 2, remember 2 was the slide guy on the previous Dodge, if they're doing their jobs and outworking their men, because this Dodge is happening and this guy knows this is a good time for me to attack because there's a lot of space. And the only way you can defend that is this guy getting a piece of him and the clarity of the communication from the backside of the field.
He was also clarifying that was for the previous clip as well, the dummy 5 on a die, the small 5 on a die.
Yeah.
That's what the backside.
Yeah. I mean, we tell that we say that guy. Yeah, that guy is the guy telling the recovery guy where to go in the drill. in the drill, that remember there was 4 people: a dodger, an on-ball guy, a slide guy, and a backside guy. And you have different terms for him. I won't tell you what ours are. It's secret.
Coach Murphy's on the line.
Uh,
I can't say too much.
Is that Mike Murphy? My Mike Murphy, what's up? Philly Mike Murphy?
Philly Mike Murphy.
All right, Murph. So everybody has their own terminology and, the amount that you're hedging up the hashes and things like that. And so the, when you're doing drills, you obviously want to have it replicate as much as possible the game and how it reflects how you're coaching. So yes, in the drill that we were showing, I guess that's just a generic backside guy. It could be anybody. It's one of the guys who would be telling somebody what to do. All right. Is that it?
No more questions on
Was
the group.
that the last clip?
That was.
All right. Okay. So I think tomorrow, for you fans who are looking for that mug, there is no mug. That's a total lie. You got a shout out if you ask a lot of questions. We're gonna do everybody. We're gonna do like a couple hour thing. You can jump in, jump out. We're gonna do facing off and riding and clearing and substitution game, offense, defense. Our ops guy is a stick guru, so he's gonna do some stuff for stick straining, because whenever these freshmen show up and they can't throw an 8-yard pass, that's not catching and throwing. That's terrible stick straining. So we're gonna do a little stick straining, and we'll probably cover some recruiting. So block out like 2 hours tomorrow if you have it. Don't do the yard work. Come and watch what we're doing. So is that it, Will? Any questions?
No.
Thank you. Subscribe to our YouTube channel, HLX 1881, and we'll see you next time. Peace out.